Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, and with me, as usual, Alasdair McKenzie. Hello, Alasdair. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm all well. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I'm definitely better than Ciro, I would add. But we're going to talk about Ciro Immobile, obviously. Plenty of things to talk about because Lazio uh, is out of two draws, right? Europe League, Stuttgart at home. It was a much needed win, and Lazio unfortunately didn't make it. And against Udinese yesterday, uh, 0-0 at the Stadio Olimpico. Two home games, just 2 points, Alistair. That's not very good.
No, it's not. I mean, I think there are extenuating circumstances around both. Not to make an excuse, but I think that the red card for Lazio obviously is what I'm talking about. The first game coming at the end of the first half, leaving Lazio down to 10 men for entire half of the match, and they still managed to go in front before conceding. So I think in the circumstances, a draw wasn't a terrible result. Obviously, that group's still wide open because of this crazy situation where all four teams have the same number of points. And then the Udinese game, I think with the quick turnaround, because Thursday 9 o'clock to Sunday 3 o'clock, I still don't quite understand how that's happened, given Roma and Fiorentina had earlier Thursday games and are playing on Monday. But yeah, quick turnaround, losing Ciro to injury up against this incredible Udinese team that is on this amazing run. I really honestly don't think a 0-0 draw is a bad result in the circumstances. So yeah, two draws, but I think we shouldn't be kind of too downhearted or negative about either of these games really in the circumstances, to be honest.
Yeah, different circumstances that make the match very difficult for Lazio. I rewatched the red card of Lazzari and it's simply embarrassing. He didn't do nothing. And the problem, Alistair, is that as it wasn't a direct red card, but the second yellow card, VAR couldn't say nothing, which is embarrassing because Lazzari really didn't do nothing. So that's simply terrible. And again, the VAR is a system that it's not working. I mean, the technology is perfect, in my point of view, but it's so limited that it's if they don't change the rules, it will never solve the problems like the Lazzari red card that changed the match, as you were mentioning.
Well, Vittorio, are you wanting this to become a VAR debate podcast? Because that might take another extra hour on top of everything else. But yeah, no, I do agree. I think it was very, very harsh way to lose a player in such an important game. I was encouraged by how they responded to that, to be honest, because going down to 10 isn't something Lazio have had to deal with this season at all, as far as I remember. I'm sure you're going to correct me in a second. But yeah, to then respond to that by actually taking the lead in that match was impressive. And obviously, though, they conceded late on, that group is still very much up for grabs.
Yeah.
It's a bit more open than we probably would have liked, than we probably thought it was going to be after that opening day hammering of Feyenoord. But it's still there. It's still there for Lazio. I don't think they want to finish third and drop into the Conference League because, as our own sporting director has just described the Conference League as the cup of losers. So I'm not sure that's where we want to end up.
No, definitely not. And I would suggest to move to Sunday. And I want to start from this, Alistair, because it was Lazio Udinese. Yes, the table said it was a very important match, but it's still Udinese. It's not Milan, not Inter, not Juventus. Still, there were 45,000 people at the stadium, and I think Udinese fans was like 200, so not that many. So it was good to see a Stadio Olimpico so packed and full of Lazio fans.
Yeah, and it's a continued theme, isn't it? I think there's a few things at play this season we've talked about before. The club's done a lot more to to kind of sell tickets, with the actual season ticket sales and then reopening of those season ticket sales. They've also actually, which might have gone over people's heads because I'm not sure we mentioned it, but they actually did a ticket deal, which is something I remember you talking about last season that Roma were managing to do, the Lazio weren't. So they did this deal called the domino effect, where it was essentially if you bought a ticket for the Spezia game, I think it was, then the next two games, the tickets became cheaper. And it's, a good way of encouraging people to essentially turn up to 3 home games in a row against less attractive opposition. I mean, that said, less attractive opposition. Udinese have been the revelation of the season in Serie A. This is a team that haven't lost since the opening day against Milan. They're 9 games unbeaten. They hammered Roma. They beat Inter. They got draws against Atalanta and us now. They beat Fiorentina. This is a really, really impressive Udinese team. So although they're obviously not the biggest name in the league, this was a massive game, 3rd versus 4th. And the two of the top scoring teams in the league as well. So a 0-0 draw perhaps wasn't what everyone is expecting, but we kind of cancelled each other out, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's funny because this is only the second match of the season that Udinese and Lazio doesn't score. Lazio didn't score against Torino away game and scored in all the other matches, even when we lost against Napoli. Same thing for Udinese. So this tells you that it wasn't an easy match. And yes, we were all hoping to see Lazio winning this, but we have to say that draw is a good result, and Udinese hit the crossbar twice, and Provedel made a good save at the end of the match. So Lazio could end losing this match, right? So overall, it's a good performance. And again, our defense was very good. Patrick didn't start. He didn't play. Now, I don't know if it was an injury or just turnover. But even with Romagnoli and Casale, Lazio defense was pretty solid.
Yeah, and Casale. I guess that was the big news of the team starting lineup for this match. Only his 3rd game for Lazio. What did you think of his performance?
I think he had a good match, and this is the 3rd time he starts in Serie A, and I thought he's definitely going better than what I saw in the friendly matches. And again, we don't have to forget that Udinese is a tough team. They have physical players, and Sarri said after the match, one of the reasons why I picked Casale is because Udinese have very physical players, and so I thought I put 2 physical defenders like Romagnoli and Casale, and this will help me. And I thought it did, even though they hit the crossbar twice. Apart from that, and a good save from Provedel, they didn't have that many chances. Now, Udinese, my impression is that they came to Rome to get a point because they were very defensive, but they're very fast and physical. So we struggle at a certain point. And I thought that, and I wanted to talk this a bit later, but you brought it out. So Sarri took a huge risk, right? He put Vecino as a playmaker in front of the defense. He brought in Milinkovic-Savic. He brought in Luis Alberto. And at a certain point, we were playing Vecino, Milinkovic-Savic, and Luis Alberto. It was clear the idea of Sarri to try to win it, but at the same time, he gave Udinese a chance to win it, right? With counter-attack that happened in the end of the match. So it wasn't easy to finish with a clean sheet. And I thought Casale had a good match with Romagnoli as well.
Yeah, and this is exactly the kind of game we would have lost in previous seasons. After Ciro went off, Lazio created very little. They looked pretty shell-shocked, to be honest. And it's no surprise because they've had so little time this season playing without Ciro. He's been there almost all the time. He started every single game in both competitions. So I think here what we've seen is really the importance of having this defense. It's stating the obvious perhaps, but the fact that you can rely on a defense to keep a clean sheet in a game where you're struggling to score goals and come away with a point, it's not just 1 point earned, it's a point that means that a team you're directly competing with, you're level on points with in the top 4, that they're not getting clear of you. And yeah, like you say, rode our luck at times. Udinese hitting the bar in both halves. But that was pretty much it. Beto had a very quiet game. I think that Caselli Romagnoli did a very good job keeping him quiet. Yeah, interesting what you're saying about the midfield shake-up. I quite like that. I quite like seeing a kind of more attacking approach trying to win the game. I think perhaps Sarri saw that need, though, to inject a bit more threat from midfield because the attack just isn't really functioning properly. I think this is something we need to talk about. Ciro's injury after half an hour, limps off, hamstring. We still don't know exactly how long this is going to keep him out, but wow, this is an anxious time for us because not only is Ciro and he's the most reliable source of goals in this team, but there has been no plan B that's even really been trialed this season. You know, it's Anderson moved in there after Ciro went off. We've seen Anderson play there before, but this isn't a plan B that has had any real time to gel, to bed in as a proper kind of alternative attack. Cancellieri has not been given the time to really have a chance to become the Vice Immobile that people were hoping he would be. So it's a big issue, and I think we'll be relying on this defense more than ever before in the games ahead if there's a proper long-term problem for Immobile.
And there's a big problem, Alistair. The fixture of the next weeks or so, it's not very good, right? Because we have Midtjylland at home, and it's going to be a decisive match. We have Atalanta next Sunday, key match. We have the derby. We have Feyenoord Lazio. We have Juventus Lazio before the break. So we're going to face 5 key matches, 2 for the Europa League and 3 for the league, without forgetting Lazio Salernitana and Lazio Monza. We don't know when Ciro's going to get back. He could be back next year, as the last match is the 13th of November. Or maybe he's going to be back for the last one, Juventus Lazio. We don't know. But that's a big issue. Ciro started every single match. As you were mentioning, we didn't really test plan B. Sarri spoke about it, obviously, at the end of the match. And he said, well, last year, things didn't go that bad without Ciro. But to be honest with you, this was the end of last season where Cabral came in. And he was quite good in that position. But Cabral is not here anymore. First part of the season where we played without Ciro, I remember Bologna-Lazio 3-0. Awful performance from Lazio. I remember Felipe Anderson struggling in that position. So I'm not very confident. And this, as you were mentioning, is a big issue. And the problem is that as today, we don't know who's going to play because we have various options, but we don't have a real plan B. It could be Felipe Anderson like he did yesterday, but didn't work out. I don't think so. It could be Pedro. It could be Cancellieri. It could be even Luca Romero. As far as today, we don't know who's going to be the option for Maurizio Sarri. And this tells you we are unprepared or not.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's the worst fear realized, isn't it? Because we all knew this was an issue, and we have, with good reason, spent a lot of time so far this season on this podcast praising some of the transfer activity that was done in the summer, because other parts of the team have certainly been improved. Provedel, Romagnoli, Vecino, these guys have come in. They've really added quality and depth to the squad. But the inability to sign a backup to Immobile was always going to cause problems at some point. Look, this guy is 32 years old, 33 in February. He makes a living by running his socks off for 90 minutes. At the moment, there is, this is no secret. This season is unlike any other ever before. We've got a World Cup right in the middle of it. What does that mean? It means the fixtures are more compacted than ever before. And Immobile is being asked to start and most of the time finish every single game. it's going to happen at some point. You can't ask him to have a superhuman effort um, and be playing at the same level every week and not suffer any sort of muscular issue at any point. So it's a lack of foresight that's led to this situation. Cancellieri was never going to be able to really be a valid option there, considering he's a winger. He's 20 years old. We signed him when he'd only had a handful of Serie A appearances to his name anyway. And now you can tell how desperate the situation is by the fact that nobody really has a clue what's going to happen because, like you say, the papers, the websites, everyone is naming almost every player Lazio have as a possible option. I mean, if we still had Bastos, he would definitely be in consideration to be up there. Rest in peace. But
he's not dead.
Well, he's not a Lazio player anymore. But yeah, we've got, Romero, Cancellieri, Pedro, Anderson, Zaccagni, even talking about Milinkovic-Savic playing as a striker. I mean, why not put Maximiano up there? He's not been playing in goal. Maybe he'll do a good job at the other end. But it's crazy that we don't, not only that we didn't sign a striker, but by mid-October, we still don't really know what the next option is. The most likely one, like you say, being Anderson, but it's not even been trialed much. We've not played with that very often this season. We've never started with that this season.
And yesterday it didn't work very well, right?
Well, there were times last season. I mean, when Sarri mentioned that, we did do this last season, we had moments where there was a forward line without any natural strikers and it worked quite well. You're right. I think he was talking more about the end of the season. But there was a point in the middle as well when I think we got 2 wins in a row with Venezia and I can't remember what the other game was. I was looking at this last night and it did kind of work, but it did kind of work against lower opposition. Yeah, the fixture list you just read out is terrifying. It's not a good time for this to have happened.
And I think even last year against Atalanta, we missed Ciro Immobile, and Atalanta was with a lot of players out, and it was a very boring match with Lazio unable to shot on target once, I think. So this is a little bit concerning. I thought Felipe Anderson in the second half was pretty much invisible. I would have tried to switch and put Pedro in as number 9 and move back Felipe Anderson as a winger. Didn't work out. Today there's a fan on social asking for Sergej number 9. I can see it happen in a certain situation. You're playing long ball and Milinkovic can go up close to the real number 9. That could be an option. But Alasdair, going for on the free transfer market, there's Daniel Sturridge available. Shall we sign him for just a couple of matches?
No, please no. I don't think the emergency free agent market is the way to go here, especially Daniel Sturridge. Because what you need here really right now is an immediate impact. What you need is someone who's going to slot in and guarantee goals, but also an ability to link up with the rest of this team. Going to the free agent market is not going to do either of those things, really. It's a very sophisticated tactical system that Sarri has built. That's why it's taken this long for it to start working. And so you can't just throw in a random player at this point of the season and who won't be match fit and hope for the best. I think that you're right about Anderson. I think that it's always made more sense to me for Pedro to be that option because of his finishing is better, his movement is better, and also Anderson thrives more in space. That's where he's most dangerous, and he doesn't get that space in the middle of the pitch. And we saw him yesterday. He was coming wide all the time. He almost wanted to swap positions with Pedro because it seemed like he kept coming out to that position to try and interchange. And I think that lack of a focal point is a real issue. Because it's not really just about who replaces Immobile. It's about how the rest of the team operate in Immobile's absence because they're so used to him being there. They're so, the likes of Alberto Milinkovic-Savic have a telepathic understanding with Ciro by now. They know exactly how he moves, where he's going to be when. And when you lose that, it means that actually there's going to be more doubt, uncertainty in the minds of the midfields, of the wingers, of the fullbacks, just the entire way this attack is built. It's not just about who's playing striker. It's about how that person is going to also give the rest of the team the structure required to keep attacking as fluidly as they have been.
Talking about the attacking, I thought Zaccagni had a good performance yesterday, and he's getting more and more. I think he's improving day after day, and he's understanding more what Sarri demands from him. He needs to be more in the penalty box, which is happening. Yesterday, probably the biggest chance we had in the second half was from Zaccagni, so that's encouraging. But again, it's another player who prefers to start wide and then move centrally than be a number 9. So that's not going to solve the problem. But that's in a week that hasn't been very encouraging. That's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. I think Zaccagni is up there to be most improved player so far this season. Maybe Patrick, you'd chuck in there as well. But who I saw you had a sign up at the stadium yesterday saying, "Patrick, give me your shirt." So
yeah.
And by the way, when I was leaving the stadium yesterday, Patrick was walking out in front of me, and as soon as he left to go through the gate, there's a crowd of fans all start, "Patrick, Patrick," and somebody else, a different sign saying, "Give me your shirt, Patrick." And he's like a superstar, this guy. It's unbelievable.
What happened? I mean, what happened? People were crying when he was playing, and now we are crying when he's not. I don't know what happened. It's simply incredible.
It's amazing.
You talk about Patrick, but shall we talk a little bit about Toma Basic? He started Thursday, didn't go very well. Yesterday, he's been warming up for all the second half, and he didn't come in. This is not the first time that this happens. And I understand that, you warm up different players and then you make substitution accordingly to what you think. But in a match like that, with a very physical team, maybe Basic could have been a good option, right? Do you think Sarri thinks he's not good enough for this team? Is Basic the new Akpa Pro who started last season and now he's out?
I think it's a bit too soon to say that about him. I think, yeah, the problem is we still don't really know what Basic is, I think. Correct. But he's with most of the rest of the midfield, I think you can kind of identify them as bringing a certain quality to the game. Cataldi is your classic playmaker who will get on the ball, move the ball around. Vecino's versatility has been a huge feather in his cap so far this season, but he's also been dangerous in the attacking end of the pitch and contributing goals and assists and providing that level of physicality and to help with defensive work as well. Milinkovic-Savic, we don't need to go into what he's good at, or else we'll be here for 3 hours. And so I think the problem with Basic is we don't quite know what is he offering. I mean, I think we want him to provide that physicality, and I think that goal threat as well. I think we want him to be able to contribute more in the attacking end of the pitch and also really get stuck in. But we've not really seen enough of that, and perhaps that's what's playing on Sarri's mind, is that it's been a while now. And yeah, okay, he's not been given tons of opportunities, but I think he's also suffered from Vecino's arrival, because I think, actually, to be honest, Vecino's come in and has essentially done what we were wanting Basic to do, which was, like I say, that combination of physicality and goal threat. And we've just not really seen it from him yet.
No, and this leads me to the other question, because yesterday I was at the stadium and was thinking, we are not winning. We don't have Ciro Immobile. In the second half, we didn't create that many chances. Now, we said it often. On the bench, you have a lot of options, right? And he made the first substitution after 20 minutes. Immobile out, he was injured, Pedro in. Then, beginning of the second half, he put Luis Alberto in instead of Cataldi and switched Vecino, playmaker. And that's it. The third substitution came at 3 minutes from the end of the match. He put in Cancellieri to try to win the match. 3 substitutions in the era that you have 5, in a match that you're not winning at home, that you should be trying to win. Why? What's your answer to this question? Why Sarri did only 3 substitutions? He doesn't trust his bench players. He didn't think he had option to find a way to score against this Udinese, or thought that the team was playing too good and he couldn't improve them?
Perhaps he didn't want to upset the balance too much because, yeah, you do want to be winning that game at home, but he would probably also have it in mind that it's quite a fragile ecosystem at that stage, because without Ciro, everything is suddenly a bit new. This is a very dangerous Udinese team, particularly on the counter. So I don't think it's necessarily so much a lack of trust as a kind of belief that the team that was out there was the likeliest to get the job done. Also not sure how many more changes you would have made to that team. I mean, looking at who was on the bench and who was on the pitch, what additional changes do you think could have and should have been made there?
Well, we were talking about Felipe Anderson struggling as number 9. Put in Cancellieri earlier. That could have been an option.
Yeah, perhaps that, yeah.
Even Basic, we said that they are very physical. Maybe put in Basic and have a more physical midfield. Basic played in the playmaker position in some circumstances. That could be an option. And as well, he's tall. So, you have Luis Alberto, he puts the ball in the box. You have Milinkovic, Savic, and Basic. So that's another way of creating issue to the Udinese. Don't know. I think Marcos Antonio warm up as well. He didn't come in. I think you have options there. Yes, probably we don't have the Vittorio Immobile, but you could change things around, especially in a match that you're not winning. That could have been, a sort of solution. So I was curious to know why Sarri didn't change anything else. And even, let's be honest, putting Cancellieri the last 3 minutes, it's not going to change anything, right? You need a miracle to come in the last 3 minutes and score a decisive goal. I mean, or you have Caicedo, or it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, and Cancellieri, it's if you look at his stats this season, it says he's made 8 Serie A appearances, which sounds like quite a lot, but that amounts to 80 minutes of football. I mean, he's really not been given much time to show what he can do. What would you do now? What do you think is the best solution? Is it persisting with something we've at least tried before, which is Anderson through the middle, Pedro and Zaccagni either side? Or would you just say Cancellieri is supposed to be the backup here, so let's just throw him in and see what he does? Or would you go something completely new?
Why did you mention Hizai? I didn't understand.
Hizai?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah. Anyway, I would try Cancellieri probably warming up this week. Or maybe Luca Romero, that he could be an option. The problem I have with Cancellieri is that he had chances this year. He never scored. You can argue he didn't have that many chances, but he had a couple of very good chances. I see he makes the right movement, but the secret of number 9 is scoring, right? Ciro Immobile doesn't look like Messi or Neymar, but he scores. Cancellieri probably technically and physically is better than Ciro Immobile, but doesn't score. So that's my concern. Luca Romero, it's smaller, physically not ready probably, but has the mentality probably to be number 9. I wouldn't start him honestly against Atalanta, but you have 1 week, which is good. because it's finally you have 6 days to prepare this match. Probably try those two players and see how it goes. Don't know.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I mean, it sounds like we're not going to get a proper idea of
No.
how long he's going to be out until later this week. I mean, Lazio's doctor did say after the game last night that the initial signs aren't good. So that's worrying.
No.
There have been some reports saying he'll be out until next year. So obviously that's not good. But we can only wait and see and hope. The other thing that was quite a big talking point after this game, certainly for our coach, was the Stadio Olimpico pitch, which is an unexpected kind of protagonist of this season, really, because this isn't the first time this has come up. And
No.
it's not just Sarri. Mourinho has also been whinging about this season. But he came out really hard last night about this, and he said that Lotito's basically going to have to find a different coach unless he does something about the condition of the turf. What do you think about that? I mean, did you notice this during the game? Is it on the eye? Is this on the naked eye? Is this something that you were noticing?
So, as we were mentioning before, there was 45,000 people at the stadium, so I arrived quite early. And if you haven't experienced parking at the Stadio Olimpico, it's not a great experience. So I had to arrive 2 hours earlier to find a place to park close to the stadium. And so I had plenty of time to watch the pitch. And as soon as I arrived, I saw the pitch and I said, oh God, what's going on? There was grass missing in the goal close to the Curva Nord. And you could see that there was brown lines through the pitch. And those brown lines are clearly sign of grass gone bad, ruined. And you think, it's October. We just played 2 months. You have to play other, what is it, 6, 7 months? I mean, the grass won't arrive in June if it's like this now. It's terrible. The ball bounces awfully. It's awkward every time the ball bounces.
Too many games?
Say again?
Too many games?
I don't know. I think the grass is not good enough. I mean, San Siro has the same numbers of games, right? Milan and Inter are playing on the same turf, and they're playing Champions League. So I don't think it's the number of games. I think it's the grass that is awful. And funny enough, Alasdair, last year, if you remember, Sarri complained about that. And the Football Federation said, this is embarrassing from Sarri. His behavior is terrible, etc. He did it again this year. And this morning, there was a meeting at Formello with the manager of the Stadio Olimpico grass and Lazio to try to solve the problem. They finally recognized that there is an issue there. And we have to say something, because a lot of people will say, well, it wasn't only Lazio playing there, even Udinese. Yes, but Lazio type of football is very different from Udinese. We saw it. Udinese tried long ball for 90 minutes, while Lazio was trying fast passes. So the condition of the grass affected much more Lazio than the other team. So that's an issue. That's an issue. And I remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, San Siro had the same problem. If you remember, Milan and Inter was always complaining about the grass of the San Siro. So they fixed that problem. We should be able to fix this as well, because again, it's funny because so far Lazio lost only one match at home, but this will affect the performance, right? And the injury. Let's not forget Ciro Immobile. Now, we don't have the certainty that this injury is related to the pitch, but definitely Dybala's got injured, Ciro Immobile got injured. I mean, they are not the only player who have sustained an injury at the Stadio Olimpico this season.
Yeah, I thought it was last year San Siro they changed the turf.
They do it every year, but I remember 78 years ago, all the managers were complaining about that.
Yeah, I seem to remember last season they were kicking up a big fuss and they managed to change it quite quickly. But I mean, clearly it's an issue. I mean, actually, what I asked about too many games, I'm not sure that is the case, because I was looking at some of the comments that have been made this season, and actually Mourinho brought this up after the very first game of the season, when it should be in its best possible condition.
Yeah.
And I think he described it as being like playing on a field of potatoes. So, yeah, I mean, this is clearly a problem. Sarri's, like you say, making this point that it's just the style of football he plays can't be played on a surface like that, because he wants to play at the back. He wants to play quick, accurate balls. He wants to play, 700 passes a game. And it's going to be very, very hard to do that if you can't rely on the ball to travel the way you want it to. Your ability to control it, move it on is completely compromised. So, yeah, it's good at least that it seems like they're doing something about it. And actually, I think it's good that he's complained about this, and not just after losing a match, because I think maybe it gets misconstrued by either coach.
Yeah.
Sarri and Mourinho are both coaches who like to complain about stuff. So if it happened directly after a defeat, people might be able to just brush it off and go, "Oh, they're being bad losers," whereas actually it is an issue.
And let's not forget something. Luckily enough, the Six Nations haven't started. Imagine how the pitch would be after the Italian team playing at the Stadio Olimpico, because maybe not everybody is aware, but as the Stadio Flaminio has not been able to be fit again, rugby Italy team is playing the Six Nations at the Stadio Olimpico. And we saw Lazio playing after 48 hours, right? And the pitch was awful. So imagine now that the pitch already is terrible. Playing after the Six Nations is going to be a nightmare. So the stadium is like this, the pitch is like this without the rugby and without concert, because let's not forget that there have been some concerts at the Stadio Olimpico. So, but I think the last one was in August, July. So imagine this condition of the pitch after Italy, England over Six Nations. The pitch where the half where England will attack would be destroyed. The other one would be great, perfect condition. But the other one would be really no grass at all.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, it's I guess the likeliest outcome is that if they're going to do anything about it, I mean, this is just a total assumption. I'm not sure about this, but you would assume that they would do something during the World Cup break. But if that is the case, I mean, looking at it now, Lazio got 4 games at the Olimpico between now and the break for the World Cup. So that's not really good enough, because that's a big chunk of the season right there.
Yeah, and a lot of important matches. So no, that's not acceptable. Absolutely not. That won't be good enough for Lazio. So there's going to be this meeting today. So let's hope that they find a solution for that. But yeah, it's really important, especially for a team like Lazio. Alasdair, we mentioned the fifth consecutive clean sheet for Lazio, which is a record. I don't remember last time Lazio did that. We have to talk about Provedel, and let's talk even a bit about Maximiliano, because Sarri has been asked about that after the match yesterday, and he said, "I knew Ivan Provedel was at very good level before he arrived, but I didn't expect this. He's improving week after week, and this is the important thing, I think. Luis Maximiliano can hardly train because of a nasty case of hip bursitis. I don't know, because he always trained. He always was warming up before the matches. I didn't see this injury, honestly, with you."
It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? I mean, it's not the first time we've seen kind of weird injury stuff happening at Lazio where we're not really being told what's going on. I mean, with Luis Alberto is the one that comes to mind, that pubalgia problem a few years ago. But yeah, he's always in the squad. He's always on the bench. He's always doing the warm-ups, like you say. So it's a strange one, yeah. I mean, maybe it explains why he's not even being given a chance in the Europa League. But then again, how can you drop Provedel at the moment at all? Because he's just he's great. I mean, last night was another good example of this, because it wasn't a game where he had tons of work to do. he would have been pretty powerless to stop the 2 shots that hit the bar. But when it came to actually having to be active, he made a really good save. I think it was on Pereira. Sign of a good keeper. Barely anything to do for 90 minutes. When a chance comes to make a save, you make the save. And likewise, some dangerous crosses coming into the box, something we've talked about before, and he's there to actually deal with them. So that's always nice to see. But amazing, this defensive record. And also, just one final thing, the defensive record continuing despite changes happening to that defense. It's Casale in for Patrick, and the same thing continues. So that's really promising.
Talking about the defense, there's this weird thing for me. Lazio had 5 consecutive clean sheets, and we are the best defense in Serie A. But in Europe League, we have conceded a lot of goals. Yeah, Midtjylland was a nightmare, but we have conceded 2 goals against Feyenoord, 2 goals against Sturm Graz, and 5 against Midtjylland. What's happening? Why in the Europe League we are not that good in defense?
Probably just because, despite what I just said about the good thing being the defense has changed while they've continued that record going, I think there has just been a bit more rotation in the Europa League. The Midtjylland game in particular, by memory, it was Radu was involved in that game. Husai and Radu were the fullbacks, and Gila's been getting more game time. I guess it's just it's a less familiar setup. Even the midfield, there have been more changes happening. So I think the more changes happening to the team, the more they lose that kind of sense of stability that they've definitely created in Serie A. So for me, it's probably more to do with that. Although it has to be said, I know they conceded 2 at home on Thursday, but generally speaking, Lazio are traveling very badly in Europe for quite a long time now. So that's also part of the issue, probably.
Yeah. Well, even in Serie A, the away record is not great. Yes, we won the last 2, but before that we have been struggling, right? We drew against Sampdoria, we drew against Torino, so we haven't been playing great away. But in Europe League is even worse. I think last time we won, it was against Lokomotiv, who was already out in November, and in the last 16 away games we won just 2, which is embarrassing. So
it's because we, no matter what Sarri says, we actually need the potato field. That is the secret to our success, is the potatoes.
We're so used to the bad bounce that when we find a good pitch, we struggle.
Don't know what to do.
That could be the reason why. Alasdair, do we have something else to talk about, or we can wrap it up here and think about Atalanta?
No, that'll be it. I think I've got my Bastos mention in for the week, so I think we can leave it until next week.
Yeah, you find always a way to mention Bastos.
Just miss him so much.
Not Casado, eh? Probably Casado.
I do miss Casado as well. I do. I really do.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. Remember, you can find us wherever you listen to your podcast. We are on YouTube as well, on Spotify, Spreaker, and if you want to support our channel, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at just $2 a month. We're gonna be back after Atalanta Lazio's away game. Very complicated. Till then, take care.
Cheers.